Hello, hello, hello. Got a yellow. Okay, and I want to talk about a very extreme rare genetic condition called analgesia or CIP, which stands for congenital insensitivity to pain. And this is totally my subject because this is the ultimate subject there is for me. It is absolutely burning interesting. Yeah. So it is the ultimate, total, the total absolute. I'm gonna draw an infinity line, infinity ribbon. May all living beings be safe and free from suffering and free from pain. And that is why this is my subject, because I want to dissolve pain worldwide. It's not exactly the same color as my t-shirt. My t-shirt is paler than that, but it's okay. Someone on Facebook referred me to a sage, to a very wise person, and his name is Robert Anton Wilson. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him. He is a contemporary with Terence McKenna, Ken Wilber, and Rupert Sheldrake, and I think they all know each other also. They come from the same schools and from the same thinking and philosophy field. And that is the field of dissolving pain. And they have experimented with hallucinogenic drugs, of course. That was very popular during the 60s and 70s. All of these people are old or also have already left their physical existence. Robert Anton Wilson has died in 2007. Terence McKenna has died. Rupert Sheldrake is still there. And Rupert Sheldrake has also participated in many of the conversations with Jiddu Krishnamurti and Dr. David Bohm when Rupert Sheldrake was a very young man at about 30 or in his early 30s, after he has already finished his school and his dissertation work as well. So Rupert Sheldrake is a scientist now, working with perception and with ESP. So he's gone into the field of the paranormal, parapsychology, which fascinates me the most. So this is, when I was 13, someone asked me, a friend of my mother asked me, so what do you want to study after you did your high school diploma? I said, I want to study parapsychology. It didn't even exist then. I don't know. It still doesn't exist as a study field. You can study psychology and then go into that from there, or study philosophy and go into this from there. But yeah, I studied psychology, but I didn't finish it because I couldn't give presentations. So it's a long story. I talked about this already in my other videos. Um, so it's a very winding and difficult healing journey for me. So my entire life, it's a rocky road, and painful. Pain is like huge. It's just like pain. It's like my life is pain. You know, it's like I could write it on a T-shirt with real big letters. Pain. My life is pain. My whole life, pain and fear. And so that's why I want to talk about this now, because I think that's very liberating to talk about this. So there's a little girl. Her name is Gabby. And Gabi is actually a German name. I guess her parents are German, or one of them is German and is familiar with the German names. So, a very sweet family. They seem to be very, very nice and loving and everything. But this is what happened. Gabi, when she was like 3 years old or 2 years old, she started to pull her eyeball out and play with her eyeball, and all kinds of other things. She also chewed the tips of her fingers off, and she has like 4 fingertips missing, and some other terrible things. And the parents were alarmed. They took her to the doctor. They did many tests. So finally turned out that she has a missing gene. I forgot now the exact number of it. 9. There's a 9 in that number and a C, I think, and so it's a longer digit word with numbers in it, and that is a gene that stands for pain receptivity. So the pain that you feel in your body, anywhere in your body, is being routed into the spinal cord, and from there it is routed through the different brain regions, the brainstem, the limbic system, and into the neocortex, and also into the prefrontal cortex. And I think it is the prefrontal cortex where it is finally being processed into the actual reception. That's where the reception office is for the pain. That's where the pain enters into it, that the signal of it, and it's much more complex than that. It has to do with biochemistry, and there it is felt, it is perceived in the different levels of pain. So they're doing a lot of research with people now on this thing, and I'm always happy to hear when they're doing research on people and not on animals. But I know, unfortunately, I know that they're doing all kinds of tests on animals too, of course, mainly on rats, but also even on dogs. And it's all absolutely horrific. It's horrific. And that causes me pain. There's this tremendous, tremendous pain when I think about this. It's like my whole body goes into, my body excretes cortisol when I see these animal cases. So it's absolutely extreme. When I hurt myself, it hurts a thousand times worse than with a normal person. When I hear a sound, it's like a thousand times louder than for any normal person. I went into a concert one time by Laibach. It was somewhere in Germany. It's a it's some kind of punk band from Yugoslavia, I think. And oh my gosh, I didn't last very long. We didn't bring earplugs. Um, my boyfriend didn't seem to be affected by this as much, strangely enough. And I was like, there's absolutely no chance. I couldn't even communicate with him. I just said, I gotta get out of here. It's like, there's no way I can stay there for one more minute. It was so extremely loud. So I don't know why they do it. I guess male ego again or something. Yeah, they can tough it out because they're so tough. But I don't know what it is. But it was extremely loud, and my boyfriend agreed it was too loud. But it wasn't, for him, it wasn't so painful as it was for me. For me, it was excruciatingly painful. Everything is painful for me, everything. Harsh sounds, industrial sounds. I was also a fan of Einstürzende Neubauten, which is a German punk band from the 80s. And I think they still exist. And I like them very much. It's just that I decided I'm not going to go to their concert. So, because they use a lot of like industrial waste products with lots of iron that they bang together. So yeah, not for me. I mean, not in person. So if I have the music on the computer, then I can set the volume to the right level, because it is very artistic, and it is yeah, it has a David Lynch atmosphere. It is modern art, and it has something very, very poetic, and something very philosophical, and something very, very, very honest to say. So that with the poetry, that speaks totally how I feel myself. So, but yeah, I can't handle any of these loud banging sounds. I can't handle it when Paul is putting something into the oven that is out of metal and that falls down onto the metal, and I just can't handle any of that. Or when something falls on the floor, I can't handle it. Can't handle it when someone talks to me loud, and then I can't handle it when someone talks to me angry. All of these things, it's just, I feel like it's all, the sensitivity level is like adjusted to 1,000 times the the perception, the the heightened sensitivity. That's what it feels. That's what it has always felt to me, like that. And my dad would say, he would laugh about me, and he would say when he goes to the dentist, he doesn't even need anesthesia. I just can't imagine how that can be. So, but that's again, I think, from the male ego a lot. It's like this overcoming, this I'm tough or something in that range must be, because I know that my dad is also a very sensitive person. So he tries to counterbalance it with force, and I couldn't do this. There's absolutely no way. I could never force myself to counterbalance something like this. I try to work with meditation and with breathing and with mindfulness and awareness and yoga and and stretching and stuff like this. But the fact is I am hypersensitive, hypersensitive in accordance to the, the comparison to other people. There's always a comparison there. So most people obviously are not as hypersensitive as I am. So that's why I use the word hyper, because it's hyper than the other people, more hyper than the average. So, and it's painful. It's a painful existence, real painful existence, when everything is louder and harsher and more painful all the time, all the time. And, like a touch, someone bumps me in my breast, I cry, I went to a massage place in LA, in Koreatown. I went to a spa, and there was a very harsh massage therapist lady, and I don't know what the problem what the problem was wrong with her. She was so mean to me. It was amazing. And she had me turn over and belly up, which is a very vulnerable position. And then she started netting my breasts, and I started screaming, and she laughed. And I said, sorry, I cannot tolerate this. This is way too painful. I cannot handle it. And she laughed and laughed and laughed, and she thought that was so cool. And no, I didn't find that cool at all. So, oh yeah. And then I went to another massage lady, and there was on like one of those massage beds, and she wanted me to lie down on my belly, and I tried, but I said this, I needed a pillow, to protect my soft parts, and there was just no way. I can't go to a massage therapist because they never have big enough cushions to buffer me from that kind of pressure pain. So it's very painful, very painful, very heightened sensitivity. And I even started crying there, and then the lady next to me in that other room started to feel sorry for me. It was also incredibly embarrassing. Here's a flower. And oh my goodness. And then that lady later that day came over, and when I was under the shower, and she gave me a back scrub massage for free because she felt sorry that I had to cry and that I was so badly treated by that other massage therapist. And yeah, but anyway, I didn't go back to that place. So um, it's just amazing. Like, it's just one story like this after another throughout my life, where I encounter the world, this world of people that is just 1,000 times too harsh and too painful and too brutal for me. And with everything, with the words, the jokes, the gestures, the smells, the um, the things people find pretty, I find brutal. I mean, it's just, it keeps going on and 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 on. And it's so painful. It's so painful to exist. That's why we live in we have retreated. We retreated out into nature to get away. And then we found, not long ago, we found a real lovely place that is, it's a deserted place somewhere, and nature has grown into it, kind of like life after people. And I just love when that happens. I just love it. You see some kind of older cement lot or something, and you see like an old cabin standing there, and nature has claimed it back and has grown over it. And so when I see that, this is such a beauty, you know, it is so amazing. And the smells of all the flowers and the berries that are growing. There are berries in this color. This is amazing. Never seen that in Germany before. And in this color too. It's orange and yellow, and there are orange and yellow flowers growing in our garden, and flowers I've never seen before. They are so unique and amazing. I think they're in the asparagus family. And nature, you know, this pure nature, to me, that's when my senses come alive. That's when I feel safe, when I feel like it's like a relief, you know. It's like a spa treatment. It's total relief in nature. Trees and plants, the freshness of it, the smells, the scents, the pureness of it, the sincerity, the honesty, the now moment activity of it. It's poetic, it's lovely, it's amazing. I've seen wild horses that have that energy. I don't want to get into this now, then I start crying again because of what they did to the wild horses. And starting in 2012, it was one of the things that caused me a nervous breakdown. I don't want to get into it. I'm going to cry. I see these beautiful places in the world, and yeah. For example, I find this amazing frog sound video on YouTube. Then I see a comment underneath. Someone says, the place doesn't exist anymore. They have done fracking on there. And it's like, I mean, for me to see this, it's like, I don't even have words, you know, to describe this, to describe the way it feels, the grief over this, over the frogs and the nature and the animals and the plants and the pristine beauty that has been recklessly brutalized by some greedy oil executive people. It's horror for me to see this, horror for me to read these things. So all of this is pain. Then I have pain from the past. I've been brutalized when I was a child that is 1,000 times more sensitive than other people, then brutalized on top of it. It's just, and I'm not the only one. I'm not this one rare princess that's on the P, you know. There are many other people, many other sensitive people. Still minority, but they're still, I don't know, 5% or something. I don't know. But it's a lot of people, you know. So we have over 8 billion humans. So 5% of that's a lot of people. A lot of other people who are highly sentient and sensitive and have extreme pain. Everything is extremely loud and painful and gruesome. So when I hear about a case where someone doesn't have pain, it's fascinating me beyond measure. It's like, how can I obtain that, you know? How can I mute this? They found a gene in a mouse That was a while back. We call it the knockout mouse syndrome. So the CRH, corticotropin releasing hormone, was that was missing, or that wasn't being produced. The corticotropin releasing hormone. And so what happened is, and that was also genetic, call it disorder, genetic disorder. But I don't call it a disorder. So a mouse without that gene, or with, I don't know, a mouse with that genetic predisposition would not panic. Okay. And they did cruel tests again, which is absolutely unacceptable. They put the mouse into a tank with water where the mouse could not get out on the side, and the mouse would just keep swimming but not panic. Keep swimming and swimming and swimming until he is exhausted and drowns, which is absolutely cruel. And so with a regular control mouse, done the same tests, they will start panicking because they start realizing there is no escape. And when they realize there's no escape, they panic so badly, and it's very, very painful, that they start drowning much sooner than the mouse was without that hormone producing gene. So that was already going in that direction. So apparently this is a different gene in humans, or maybe it is somehow related. I don't know. But because the name of that gene sounded very different. But it is related to this, because people who don't feel pain, they also don't have fear. So they don't have fear and they don't panic. They interviewed that Gabby when she was 14, and she talked about her condition, now older and very good student, very intelligent. That's also very interesting to note. Straight A student, you know, in every single field, a straight A. This gives rise to a question: if someone doesn't have pain, they don't panic, they don't have fear. When they don't have fear, the brain has complete clarity. The only time the brain is overwhelmed and cannot keep up and is overloaded with ADHD, other thoughts, you know, easily distracted, gets bored. I talked about this before, boredom as in pain. Boredom is pain. Boredom is a loneliness, a despair. When all of this falls away, the brain has total clarity. Thus, brain can perceive and learn. So that's another thing that is very, very interesting to take note of. Because when I was a child, I could not learn anything. My brain was cluttered and overloaded. I was overwhelmed. Absolutely, totally overwhelmed. When I go into the store, I hate to pay with cash because I am so overwhelmed when I go into the store and all these other people are there, all the energies from other people that I perceive, energies that other people don't perceive. See, I have a heightened, with this sensitivity comes ESP, with that comes a perception ability of other things, such as the vibration of a person, the astral body, the energetic field that is around a person, that I can read and perceive. I don't read people according to what they say or how they pretend to smile or be. I I go by what I see in their astral bodies, in their energetic range. That is what I read immediately, and it's probably saved my life many times because I see a monstrous energetic field and I run. I'm out of there. No matter how friendly they were, nice and smiling and pretending to be all so caring and gentle. Oh yes, but it's already in. It's in the voice too. It swings in it. It's so obvious. And then there are people who can't perceive that at all. People with Williams syndrome, for example, can't perceive that at all. So they're constantly taken advantage of because of that. And I would not be surprised if the people with Williams syndrome also have less pain, less pain reception ability. But they have a very good nature. They're very kind and caring. So that obviously doesn't run on the same, in the same realm. Okay, those are two separate things. And then there are people who are highly, highly perceptive to language and to facial muscle activity and perception in that way of ego always being on guard. There are many of those, and they don't have any kindness in them at all. So that's a dangerous combination. The alertness of the ego, the guardedness, seeing every nuance in someone's face, seeing an insult already in someone else's face before the other person has even said anything, just a wrong, slightly critical glance. It's like they already completely lose it. And then that combined with no kindness, with no caring, with no compassion at all, makes a very, very, very explosive, dangerous personality. And these people have a lot of pain. That's why I said to a couple of people today that if people didn't have pain at all, we probably wouldn't have violence and war in the world. So this is what my mind is on a daily basis. So there's a lot of scientists now going into that field of exploring that gene and trying to find out whether there is a way to tap into this potential for other people as well, through gene therapy or something in that manner where people can reduce the level of sensitivity to pain, because there are some people that are suffering from extreme pain. They have neurological conditions where they suffer from extreme pain, like extreme brain headaches. So And I feel very deeply for these people who have chronic pain in the head, in the brain, in the skull, or in the body, or the back, or in the discs, or whatever, pinched nerves, or it's all kinds of things that people suffer from. I feel terribly sorry for all animals and all people who suffer from pain. I see that all violent people have pain. Oh, this is obvious. If they didn't have pain, they would not be violent. No one would be violent. No person would be violent if they don't have this level of pain, this permanent level of pain, to the point where they don't even know a life without that level of pain. They don't even know what it's like. And because of that, they didn't even question it. The question never came up. Why do I have this pain? What's going on? It came up in me though, because I questioned things, and also because I got introduced to the psychoanalytical approaches very early in my life. My whole life I've been exhausted. And maybe it's because of this pain, this permanent psychological pain. It's constantly there, constantly cooking, under the surface. A permanent vibration of psychological pain that I have to suffer from. And that sage, Robert Anton Wilson, he said before he died, because he lived a life with polio and excruciating pain because of that neurological nerve pain in his whole body. And that was a good-natured person. It was a very, very advanced soul, a Buddha level soul. This is a very rare kind. He grew up with sadistic Catholic nuns, and probably been tortured even as a child. Gotten a lot of diseases, immune system struggling, and all of this. Then having to live with polio, had to be in a wheelchair. So he medicated himself with much marijuana, which he said helps a lot. It doesn't have these terrible side effects as pain medicine has. It's better for the liver because it's an herb. And he also experimented together with Timothy Leary and Rupert Sheldrake and Terence McKenna. Experimented a lot in the 60s and 70s with hallucinogenic substances, LSD, and also psilocybin mushrooms and other things. Savia divinidorum, I think it's the name. And so they tested all of these things, and they reached incredible insights about, the extra dimensions that are all the way in us, around us, and everywhere, but that those are discriminated out of the brain because our brains would be overwhelmed. We could not function properly, and particularly not in the past, as people used to be herb gatherers and nomadic, and they had to protect themselves and stuff like this from the elements, so they wouldn't be able to navigate their way through if they perceived all these other dimensions that are there simultaneously. So for that we have a formation in the brain discovered by Dr. Hindak Emrich at Medizinische Hochschule Hannover in Germany, a very famous university, very famous research facility, and his research is world famous because he discovered something that is also not very well received, of course, by the scientific community, but that's something he discovered completely sincerely, with him himself being a very skeptical person in that regard. So because he's been working with people who had taken hallucinogenic drugs, and he discovered that apparently there is a discrimination ribbon in the brain that discriminates, and it's called discrimination ribbon because it discriminates out the other sensory stimuli that are all the way around us. It censors out stuff from other dimensions and stuff that does not pertain to our experience here on earth. Okay. So it's very interesting. So people who take these drugs, they weaken that discrimination ribbon, and what happens is these other things come into the brain and are perceived. So it is a breakthrough in science because what it says is that it is our brain that blocks these other things. These other things are just as real as this clay here. So it's just being filtered out so that we don't see it. We only see it when our discrimination ribbon is weakened, and that happens through hallucinogenic substances. And it can also happen through injury. It can happen through an extreme mental state. It can happen in a state of extreme fear or extreme pain, because what happens then, the corpus callosum releases a lot of endorphins into the body to balance out the state. And when that happens, then I think the pineal gland also releases DMT into the body, natural DMT, into the dimethyltryptophan into the system, which is a neurotransmitter that has psychoactive abilities. So I've even experienced that myself. It's not cool. It's not cool when that is being initiated because of that what precedes it. So I'm not going to get into this now. This is too awful. I've experienced a lot of awful things in my life. I have to live with that, It's like these images, and they don't go away. They don't go anywhere. It just they keep coming up when they want to. And I have a whole lot of horror thoughts that come up, and I don't know where they come from. A lot of horror thoughts that don't even come from this time, from this era that we live in right now. They come from another era. They come from